So the Legion pre-patch is out on live servers.
Yes.
We're all getting to experience all the features that are in Legion before Legion. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's so much
New
shit.
technology.
Yeah, you're fucking about with transmog.
Oh, man.
Going about and getting the fabulous.
So fucking happy.
Did you get like the fabulous title as soon as you logged in?
Yes, on one character.
On one character, you got the full fabulous title. I think I'm missing like belts or something. I don't even know I've managed that. I've managed to miss out belts.
My 5 paladins are all in the fucking Power Ranger transmog.
Oh god, I remember you showing me that.
Yeah.
Slightly disappointed, but
Screenshot
also
on screen now,
it's
by the way.
pretty fucking cool looking as well.
Oh, come on.
So yeah, I'm
With
a
the
little
mounts to go with it as
I'm
well.
a little bit jealous. I'm not gonna lie.
Super proud of that.
I've just been fishing this pre-patch, and not in the exploit-y way where everyone's in the garrison.
Yeah, I did that actually.
What is that all about?
Well, you can get both the sea turtle mounts.
Yeah.
From the Murloc in there, and previously it was like only one person could loot it. Now they've made it so like everyone can loot it, and I don't think it's intentional. That's why everyone's calling it the garrison fishing exploit.
Right.
I was there for the coins.
Oh, okay.
I don't actually need either of the mounts.
So what so you fish up shit and you can get the mount from fishing anyway,
Yeah.
but there's also a Murloc that spawns you can loot or
When
something.
when the Murloc dies, it can drop the mount.
Oh, right. And is it like a high chance or?
And the Murloc is personal loot, so everyone can loot it. So everyone fishes, everyone spawns Murlocs, everyone loots Murlocs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So
Well,
it's 40 times quicker.
I was just doing it for the anglers rep. I need to get the water walking mount, which I really recommend people do, by the way. These like next 6 weeks or so, go get that water walking mount from fucking Mr. Pandaria. It's just, there's a lot of water fucking in Legion. So, strangely enough, so you got to walk around. It'll be a lot quicker for leveling.
All the Death Knights are laughing at you right now.
Yeah, that's true. You can get potions to do it as well, but they kind of run out when you get hit. Either way, I've been doing that and it's been boring as fuck. But that's what everyone else seems to be enjoying pre-patch, while I'm doing dailies from like an expansion or two ago. It's a bit of a fucking mess.
Anyway, let's move on. Let's get on with the show. So this week we are talking about some of the concerns we have with Legion. We don't want this to be like a super negative video because it really isn't. The features that are coming and the things that we're discussing now are actually positive things.
Apart from one of them.
Apart from one of them we'll talk about first. But there's aspects of it that we're not overly convinced about, and things that, in our opinion, could be easily fixed.
Yeah.
And improved. So we wanted to talk about them, but like you said, there is something that we wanted to get out of the way first.
The camera angle.
Yep.
It's been nerfed. They nerfed camera. How have they managed that? They managed to nerf the camera angle, yeah. So the max camera distance console command has been, like, disabled. It no longer works when you type in that fucking weird little string. So we're now, like, limited by the distance that's in the base UI, in the interface options. And this is a fucking lot shorter than most are used to, who've used the console command for how many years now?
12 years.
It's actually been in since the Babby version.
Yeah, it's always been there.
Fucking hell. So forever,
as far as I'm aware, it's always been there.
So you've been able to zoom out for a very, very long time if you knew this console command, and now you can't.
And 12 years later, they decided, hold on, this has always been a massive issue, and we've never fixed it.
Yeah.
Why don't we fix it now? Okay, let's fix it now.
Right, so they did have a couple of things to say. They did do a little bit of a blue post. Players would use the max camera distance at the expense of the game's look and feel.
Bullshit.
Right. They also said the game's core design, being its world, its art, its combat, mechanics, and other interactions, so pretty much just playing the game, they were kind of built around the base UI experience and the scale, which is the camera scale.
Bullshit.
They said it was going to annoy a shit ton of players who use the console command, which it certainly has done. Yeah. But I think they're saying, look, it is worse initially, but it's not the end of the world. And I actually kind of back them up on a little bit that the camera angle that we do have now, yes, it feels like shit, but it isn't unusable.
No,
it's not like we went into do Manoroth and Arkham, we've done all of that, and it does feel like shit, and I want to talk about that in a little bit, but you could do the fights.
Yeah, I mean, you can still play the game, and it's not going to make you quit because they changed the camera, but it's just shit.
It is, it does feel
I don't
shit.
see why they didn't just, like, there was another post somewhere else, we haven't got a quote anywhere, but the long and short of it was, players that are using the macro have an advantage over, well, not the macro, the script, have an advantage over the people that aren't using it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of true, but instead of just fucking removing it...
I would say it's very true.
Yeah, it is true. Instead of just removing it, though, why don't you just put it in the in-game slider in the interface options? And just leave it. If people want to put their camera on max distance and the game looks shitter for them, which is basically what Blizzard said, or less immersive or something like that, then fine, it's their fucking choice. Otherwise, just leave it.
Well, you could say, I'm going to play fucking huge devil's advocate here because I honestly think it's stupid that they removed this option. But you could say that, right, say, because you're right, it does give you an advantage, right, when you have this max camera distance. With the max camera distance, say you don't like playing like that because the game's not designed to be played like that, but in order to raid, say you were a raid leader or something, you had to play like that. At the expense of how the game's supposed to feel, you have to be scrolled out all of this
so
way
and give it
more
and
yeah. So really, let's be real. Like open world, like when you're out in the world doing quests and stuff, your camera distance isn't too much of a big deal. But at least in raiding, I can't say for arena because we don't PvP, but in raiding, it is a big deal that you have your camera zoomed out.
Sure, yeah.
Especially on certain fights. Of course, other encounters, it doesn't matter. Maybe the room isn't even fucking big enough, like on Scorpy Ron or whatever. But like on things like Manoroth and things like Archimond with a big room, the further you can see, like that's a huge advantage to you. So they obviously, for some whatever reason they want, whether or not it's this whole like, oh, it doesn't look very nice, or maybe it's got something to do with something else entirely that they're just kind of like making up a reason for. They're obviously not happy with it and they're just taking it away. Like, fuck you guys, just deal with it.
Yeah, I just think it's very odd that they've chosen to do it now.
Yeah, well,
The timing of it is incredibly weird.
it is. It's well,
And it's sort of like unannounced and, I don't know, just bizarre.
yeah, not many
Completely
people in our
bizarre.
guild particularly liked it when they logged on either. Like, once again, it's not going to affect people who don't use the console commander at all, but everyone who's used to using it is like, oh, it feels so constricted, especially in Hellfire. I kind of brushed over this
when
a
we
little
was
earlier.
doing it in the raids, it wasn't too bad, I must admit. There's two problems I have with it. One, less importantly, when you're actually out in the world and you're on like a relatively big mount, it actually covers almost your entire screen. Use like a big Drake, like the TBC Drakes, or the Drakes you got from like the ICC meta and stuff.
Yeah.
They're almost off your screen.
Really?
Yeah, like the very tips of the wings. It almost covers your entire screen, even like at full zoom, which is a bit weird. You can barely fucking see where you're going. And the important one is camera angle in this game has always been shit for melee and for tanks.
Yes.
You're staring at the boss's shin the entire time. Well, now it's even worse. You're staring at the boss's fucking toes.
That is very, very true.
So they just get fucked even more than what they were previously. So
And
that's
of
a
course,
shame.
for both melee and tanks, but I'd say more so, tanks normally have to do a bit more of a precise positioning job. Like, say you're fighting a giant dragon, for example, which is going to be the first boss of the next expansion. That's got to be placed in a very specific place because it's got dragon mechanics. That instance has a shit ton of dragons in it.
Yeah.
And if you fuck up positioning, you're going to get screwed. So if you've got this big old fucking dragon in your face, you're going to really struggle to be able to see, I don't know, nearby ads that you might need to pick up, or you might not be able to see exactly where the raid is, so positioning might be a little bit harder, which is unfortunate for them. But another thing is as well, it's nerfed raid leaders.
It has, yeah.
Because, of course, like, generally speaking, and I can't speak for every guild, but most guilds that I've raided with on and off, they'd normally have one main raid leader who would pretty much be the verbal DBM. They'll be the one talking all the time, calling everything out.
We brought this up a moment ago, where they physically can see less now.
Yeah, so because they can see less, it's kind of it might like cause a change in how like things are called out in raids. Say like especially if the fucking poor raid leader is a tank, but like you're not always going to be able to see everything at once, so you might actually need to get more and more people to become more and more vocal and help call things out just because of the limited camera.
Almost you would assign people to do particular call-outs.
Maybe potentially, and as I said, that isn't necessarily a negative or a positive thing. It's just like an interesting byproduct of this camera change.
Or you're going to see raid leaders constantly spinning the camera side to side.
Yeah, maybe.
So they can see more.
Yeah, either way, it's a horrible change now because we're so fucking used to our camera, how it has been for such a long time. But by the end of the next tier, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be used to it. But
yeah, you're forced to get used to it.
It doesn't stop me from wanting it to be a little bit further away, though. I just want a couple more scroll wheels back.
You say that, though, once you have those extra scroll wheels, you'll want more scroll wheels.
You probably would.
And then you'll want more, and then you'll want more, and then eventually the camera will just be back to where it was with the fucking command.
Have you actually heard like people making the game at a higher resolution and then downscaling it into like a smaller box to make the camera like further back? People are doing some crazy shit to get their camera back to how they were.
Didn't know that was possible.
I don't even know if it is possible, but people are fucking trying to get their camera back. Like, there's a crazy revolution going on. All these people complaining about flying. Oh, no flying in general. Where's our camera? Fuck flying. I'll walk around if at least I can see where I'm fucking going. Either way, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Titanforged.
Yes, we were supposed to be doing a whole video on this particular subject. We was going to do a whole laps around Dalaran for it. But we decided against it because I think we can kind of get to the main points that we want to talk about in maybe a little bit more of a concise way. But let's talk about how Titanforge works in the first place. So all of the max level loot that's going to be dropping next expansion in Legion, whether that's from world quests, 5-man dungeons, LFR, any of the other raiding things, they all have the option to roll 5 extra item levels. And if they're successful at rolling that 5 extra item level, they'll then try and roll again. And then they'll try and roll again. And they'll just keep rolling and rolling and rolling until either they fail their roll at 5 extra item levels, or they reach the cap, which is Mythic Titanforge, which is like 15 item levels above Mythic or something like that. So that means that potentially you could get an 830 World Quest item and it could roll up to the cap, which is 895.
Something like that, yeah.
So you can get the best quality loot in the game from the easiest content in the game.
But it's probably very, very important that we make it clear that the chance of you actually doing that is incredibly low. And if it did ever happen to you, or you even witness someone else doing it, you should probably go out and get a lottery ticket.
Yeah, you probably should.
You're obviously having a very lucky day. And let's just say this now, because I think people are expecting us to be incredibly negative about this. But the thing is, it's not a negative thing at all. The Titanforge system is great. I love it. It makes a lot of sense because one thing that this game has had a massive problem with is that when content becomes available, especially right at the start of the expansion, it's relevant for a short period of time, and then for the rest of the expansion, you're sort of scratching your head not doing anything apart from the raids.
Yeah.
Whereas now this system makes it so all content is relevant all the time, because even though, sure, the item level is really low from the rewards, there is the chance that you will get something spectacular from it. And although initially it's going to be capped at Emerald Nightmare, the thought is that when Nighthold comes out, the cap will go up, and then the raid after that, the cap will go up again. So yeah, it makes everything relevant. Which is great, because if a friend comes back to a game and you're boosting them through heroics and you're expecting them to quit next week, which is pretty much all your friends ever that come back to World of Warcraft.
Yeah, they do end up leaving.
It doesn't matter, because, while you're helping him, you don't feel like this is a waste of time, because potentially you could get something. And although that sounds kind of selfish, but everyone thinks that.
Well, yeah, you can do it out of the goodness of your heart, but why wouldn't you do it on top of having like a little incentive? The incentive is there, you can take it if you want. And I think you're definitely right. And when I've been playing on the beta and I have been getting these items, even though it's on a beta character that I don't particularly care about, I'm like, oh, it's so exciting.
It's exciting, yeah.
And if someone else in the group manages to get a Titanforged item, which I think from 5-mans, roughly, I think the highest I've seen is 850. And that's probably across 30 heroic dungeons or so that I've done. I've done a fucking ton of them. Everyone in the group was like, oh, grats, man. Like, they were like congratulating the person that get in there, because it's,
it's a rare thing.
It's a rare thing, and it's exciting. So just to give you an idea, of course, I might one person isn't much of a fucking database to get ideas from, but it seems to be quite rare at getting very, very high Titanforge, and it is very exciting when it does happen. However, it does still feel a little bit, I'm not sure if wrong is the right word, it's just a bit weird that the fact that you can potentially get some ridiculously high item level gear, potentially the best gear in the entire game, from easier content.
Yeah, I've always sort of thought, and I thought Blizzard kind of thought the same, if you want to get the best gear in the game, then you should have to do the hardest content. And that's been the case always with raids. I mean, if you want mythic gear, then go do a fucking mythic raid. That's sort of always been the case. And I think that's how it should stay. And I think that's a system that they could easily implement even with the Titanforge system. And it does, sure, it might sound elitist and everything like that, but I honestly think I wouldn't say it's unfair, but I just don't think it's reasonable. I mean,
I'm not even sure if it's not reasonable. It's just very fucking different. It's really, really changed how potentially you can gear up. Because normally you got that whole normal gear process.
Yeah, unreasonable is the wrong word. It's just, there's something about it that just puts me on, unease.
Yeah.
It's just what the fuck? That's just ridiculous. I mean, it feels like you almost have to be lucky to get almost an advantage over other people in your guild, so you definitely secure a raid spot, or even other guilds, so maybe you get an advantage on them when you're in the race. And they said that it won't affect the raid race, but the simple fact is, if someone can be luckier than someone else, then of course it's going to affect the raid race. Maybe not to a ginormous degree, maybe even not to a measurable degree. But it still could, and it probably will.
Well, especially with some of these, talking about, gear, One thing against your argument, of course, is that trinkets and weapons are nowhere near as strong in this upcoming thing.
They've been nerfed in a sense where they're not the power items which they were before. Yeah. There's no spinny trinkets, there's no CDR, Siege of Ogrimmar trinkets anymore. Trinkets are pretty much going to be stat sticks or they're going to be fun items, such as the one on Trilliax that spawns like a cake that you can click to get a dish shield.
They're
pretty fun
cool.
Little stupid things, really.
Which will still be good, but
they'll still be good.
There's
still a bit of item. It's better than no trinket.
Oh, definitely.
So, yeah, they're still going to be useful items, but they're nowhere near going to be as powerful as they have been in the past. And the same goes for weapons, because everyone's going to be using the artifact. There are relics that you can put in your artifacts, and they can be Titanforged.
Yep.
Which does increase the item level of the artifact, and that might be something that's super OP if you get incredibly lucky and get a mythic Titanforged one of those
3 times.
Yeah, that would be pretty crazy. But everything else I don't think would have a ginormous impact. But that said, I still think it's a system that really shouldn't exist to that level. The cap should be a lot lower than mythic. And if there has to be a cap to mythic, I think there should be ceilings of progression that you have to smash through in order to unlock it. So the system that we have right now when it comes down to getting 3 loot, which I guess the sort of Titanforge system arguably is. It's like, here's your shit item. Oh my god, it just suddenly turned into the best item in the game.
Yeah.
We kind of have that system now with the Garrison mission box reward that's sent to you from your shipyard or from your missions for the High Maul and the Blackrock Foundry version of it.
Yeah.
In order to progress that box, you need to go to normal mode or heroic mode or whatever and kill enough bosses, and then that box will then evolve into the higher version of it.
Yeah.
So you had to kill like 16 bosses in Hellfire Citadel or whatever it was to unlock the mythic version of it. I think you could use that exact same system, but obviously make it a lot clearer and people not having to guess how many bosses you need to kill in order to unlock the next the next potential item level of Titanforging.
So, like, so correct me if I'm wrong, but like, say, if you haven't done normal mode, maybe it will stop at item level 850, which is just above normal mode.
Yeah.
And then once you kill 10 normal mode bosses, then you can get...
Or less.
Or whatever,
Say 6.
It doesn't, like, X amount of normal mode bosses, and then it'll go just above heroic. You've killed X amount of heroic bosses, it goes just above mythic. You kill X amount of mythic bosses, it goes mythic plus sort of thing. And of course, you can translate that into the new Mythic Dungeons, whatever. Maybe you kill more than enough bosses at plus level 4 or whatever. You could like kind of translate it over. So maybe that would be a way of doing it. I don't think it'll be a super intrusive way either, because of course, if you're in a position where you are only doing 5-man dungeons, then as I said, getting an 850 bit of gear is like, it feels amazing.
It's absolutely insane. And if you're a mythic player, if you're going to go back to doing 5-man heroic dungeons,
it can then go...
The only reason why you're in there really is to sort of help other people out.
Yeah.
And if you have the chance of going into getting a fucking mythic item out of it as well, then that's awesome. That's great. Well, but you should have to unlock the rights in order to get that, if that makes sense.
Unlocking the rights could also buff it. So if it ever did go Warforged, maybe it will get a free couple of Warforged to even more promote you to go in there. So say that you're generally sitting in quite a lot of heroic gear, and you've unlocked the heroic tier, then when you go and like do a dungeon or whatever and you do get a Warforged item, it just throws a couple of levels in there for free to actually make it so it's something that you'd want. Because you've got to admit...
I've got a sick idea you just put in my head. What if you can get the item, let's just say you can get a mythic Titanforged item, but the system's in place, the item level of that, it will say can go up to...
Oh, what, you have to like unlock
but you have to unlock it by killing so many bosses.
Oh, that's quite a neat idea.
So even if you don't have like the right, as I put it, the rights to that item level, you can unlock the rights and the item will go to that level. If that is so happened to be the item that you got in the first place.
That's quite interesting. Huh. Well, there's loads of different ways.
Sounds a bit complicated, but it's not.
It's not in my head.
Hire me, Blizzard.
So basically, what we're trying to say is that in the extreme version that we're probably talking about, that will probably never happen, let's be real, in the extreme version, you're going to see people going all around the place with this crazy high item level, and it's going to disrupt how you normally go about getting gear, potentially, which is, as I said, incredibly unlikely, and even if it does disrupt it, it might not be a negative thing, but it's definitely a change, and any change in this game has normally very big ramifications, so it's worth talking about.
And it's scary. Everyone hates change.
Change be scary.
Yeah. And also, I
just
think
like the camera.
With this Titanforge system as well, so I also think it makes the line where your character is raid ready it skews the fuck out of it.
A little bit.
I mean, at the when a new expansion comes out, right at the start, you farm the fuck out of 5-mans after you get max level. You get a bit of crafted gear, you get maybe a couple of world epics or something like that. Then your character's raid ready. What's a raid ready character now? We don't even know.
Well,
because the potential of Titanforge is unbelievable.
It is, but like as you said, we don't
know what the scaling is on the raid yet.
Yeah, it might. That's the point. Is it scaled for people who have like?
I don't know. Is it scaled for normal 5-man gear, or is it scaled for normal 5-man gear that's Titanforged by 10 to 15 item levels?
It's all a little bit odd.
We don't know.
It's all a bit of a question mark area, and that's why we wanted to talk about it
because we're concerned.
Yeah, we
that's
hope
the point
that,
of the fucking
like
video.
as I said, the actual fucking upgrades themselves. That's very, very good. I think generally speaking, it's got a lot of pros to it. Even though it's random as fuck, and the random element doesn't feel very World of Warcrafty. Does that make sense?
Feels like more like Diablo.
A little bit, yeah. So because it's so random, it kind of feels like it shouldn't be in the game that I play so often, but it might add to it and it might make it really good. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And I think it's going to be okay overall.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see how it works out. So on the lines of Titanforged, because I think this sort of applies to it does apply to it. Mythic Plus Dungeons. Mythic Dungeons has an absolute amazing potential with this game, in my opinion. Especially down the esports scene. They could randomize the fuck out of it and make it super interesting to watch two teams battle it out like on a timer. Cool. But even just playing it yourself, not even watching it, it is very, very fun to do. And it's difficult, and it becomes progressively more and more difficult, and it scales forever until it becomes mathematically impossible for the gear that you have at that current time.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's awesome. The problem we have with it is that you can actually farm it endlessly, and the gear that you can get from it is fucking good as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's nothing wrong with I want to say this right at the beginning, there's nothing wrong with the gear level that you get, in my opinion. It might be a little bit generous at the beginning, but because the harder levels are so much harder, the gear that you get from it feels deserved. It doesn't feel free. It feels like you had to work quite hard at it, especially if you're like in a pub group or something. It's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with the gear that you get from it. It's just the possibility of you doing it forever.
Well, with raids, let's just talk about raids quickly. It's always been that you can, there was a couple of raids that had like shorter raid lockouts.
Really?
Yeah, I think Zolgarub back in the day had like a 4-day lockout or something.
Huh. I'm too scrubby
Maybe I'm
for that.
talking out my arse. I'm pretty sure that was the case. I can't really fucking remember. But regardless, they've always had a lockout. You can't just farm raids over and over again. And the reason for that is, well, the gear from it is too fucking good.
And it pressures people into feeling that they have to do that in order to make their character good. You have to play 24 hours a day in order to keep up.
Yeah. Well, Mythic Dungeons, you can farm the shit out. If you have a level 2 keystone, you go in there, you clear it, you'll get a level 3 keystone, and you can keep working up and up and up and up until you get to a point where you can't go any further. Once you've done that, well, you can then do it with your friend's level 2 keystone.
Yep, and you still
get
loot
his
from
friends. And then his friends, and you can just fucking do that all day.
So if you wanted to, you could sit and just do like a level 2 dungeon over and over and over again, assuming that you got a fresh keystone for it. You could just do that all day, every day, and each time you finish it, you'll get some loot.
And if you and your friends run out of keystones, well, you just type in trade chat, buying level 2 keystone will boost you. And we'll give 1K, and we'll give you the fucking loot at the end.
I would actually go for that if I wasn't in a guild.
Sure, if you're not doing anything.
If someone's going to boost me for it, and all I have to do is use my keystone, and I still get my gear because it's personal loot at the end.
And you'll get a level 3 keystone. Maybe they'll buy the next one off you.
They might do if you're not like too holding them back or anything. But so yeah, that system is so crazy. There's already guilds out there that are planning on Heroic Week, which is when the Mythic Plus Dungeons come out, apparently. Instead of doing a shit ton of split runs, which you always hear about, we're going to do that by fucking new raid.
Typically, that's been like the standard.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 times in a row or whatever.
Yeah.
We're now going to do a couple of split runs, and then everyone in the guild is required just to farm the fuck out of Mythic Plus Dungeons.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely insane, especially because next tier hasn't got any tier gear in it. It's actually quite not that important to get the gear from the dungeon. You just want the item level from the dungeon more than anything else. There might be a couple of trinkets in there or relics that are particularly good, but generally speaking, don't matter where the fuck you go, just go and get gear. Gear is super important, and getting that item level is super important. And the Mythic 5-mans is way, way more efficient at giving it to you because you can do it forever, and it gives you very good rewards. So that's my main issue, is because it's going, like, people already planned ahead for this, people are just going to farm this endlessly if you can farm it endlessly.
How I feel is that they should either just completely remove the lockout on raids so you can farm raids just as much.
Which is just terrible idea.
It makes no sense. But if they was to do that, then it would keep both systems, like there'd be some sort of continuity between.
They would be equal.
They'd be equal, exactly. It would feel more like Warcraft if there was to have some sort of lockout system placed on it. And I wouldn't have a weekly one. I think weekly one is...
Maybe too long?
Well, yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do in your time? The whole point of this expansion so far, the feel of it, especially like the Titanforging system and the Mythic Plus Dungeons, is that you always have something to do out of raids. You're not just logging in for raids, which is great. But I think this is like a little bit too generous. I think maybe they need to have some sort of diminishing returns or something like on the keystone. Like maybe you do level 2 once, and then the second time you do it, there's like a chance you get loot, and then the third time it's even less, the fourth time it's even less, something like that maybe.
So it's still worth doing because you might get loot, but it's just unlikely. That's actually, like my suggestion was just fucking lock out that shit every week. But what you're saying is true.
I mean, you could have some sort of form of system like that. I don't know.
And the thing is, of course, we've only experienced this system on the beta. And it might be open for like constant farm because they're testing it.
Sure.
I don't think there has been. There probably is, and we're talking out our arse now. But I don't think there has been a post anywhere that spoke specifically about this subject, where it's how much loot you can get from these dungeons and if it's infinitely farmable. And if there is, I couldn't find it. So it's a bit fucking crazy if it is left to that sort of degree where literally level 2, or whatever level you want to particularly do it at, and just get a crazy amount of gear, because you're going to feel bad when you're not on your computer. Like, say you have to go to work. Like, normally at the first fucking beginning of the expansion anyway, you, like, especially if you're playing a lot, you're like, I already don't want to be here. I want to be going to play WoW. Or I have to take my kids to school. Oh, that's one Mythic Dungeon I fucking missed. You're like, oh, shit. You know, like, the game shouldn't be that fucking like crazy hardcore that you have to go at it. It's already hardcore enough for the people who want to spend all day doing raids to do it world first.
Yeah.
But, you know, just for like the people who want to get good gear in ready for the next thing, you shouldn't have to go that ham.
And it kind of feels like maybe you'll need to.
It sucks, especially for us.
Otherwise you get behind. Yeah, it sucks for us because we're super busy when it comes down Heroic Week, because obviously we're trying to
get all the
guides out as soon as we possibly can.
And they've got the Mythic Dungeons on top of it.
If he was to introduce some sort of like lockout system, what would it be? I mean, you could do one daily, I guess, one for each difficulty, which would encourage players to try and aim for the higher ones, because once they've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're starting to get to maybe the slightly harder ones, 6, etc., it would encourage them to try and do harder ones because there's more chances at loot.
Is that too much though still?
Potentially. I mean, what I was going to suggest, I mean, of course, there's...
Because a Mythic Dungeon, of course, does take a while. It takes like maybe... I think some of them have a time limit of 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Which you would normally beat, like, especially if we're talking about level 2, you'd definitely beat it within 45 minutes if you have a group that's good.
I don't think a daily lockout system would work. If he was to put any lockout system, I think a week would be too long. Daily is too short, so you'd have to have
to be like a weird one in between.
Yeah, it'd have to be like 3 days or 4 days.
Maybe the diminishing returns thing that resets every week might be the best way of dealing with it.
I like that idea the best. The diminishing returns that resets on a weekly basis,
because then it still does promote you to go and do those things with your mates if they need help.
And at the end of the day, well, I'm going to say this now. You can fucking take advantage of this as well. Is that when you do go with a group and they get loot, they can trade you it. So if your diminishing returns are just ridiculous, and the chance of you getting loot is like 1 in 100, we just go with people that haven't been there yet, and they can just fucking trade.
Oh, then you can exploit. It's like LFR in Dragon Soul all over again.
It kind of is, yeah.
Oh god.
I don't think we're the right people to work out the solution, but yeah, that is a concern.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern. But overall, I really do fucking like the system. The system itself, as I said,
Mythic Plus in it.
I haven't done a lot. I think the maximum I did was about 5 or 6, and that was in alpha, so that was a long time ago. But still,
that was like the first day it came out.
And it was a fucking.
We haven't really done much since.
But it's really really fun doing it. Even at the lower levels, there's a lot you have to do, and I feel that the rewards are okay, but maybe it's just the abundance of them. That's the only issue I have with the Mythic Dungeons.
So let's move on and let's talk about ability pruning. And I don't think this has ever really been an issue. I'd say maybe it was right at the start of Warlords.
Yeah.
But how the game has been, of course, as more expansions have been released, you've got more and more abilities. So when TBC came out, when Wrath came out, as you got more levels, you'd get more spells. You'd have to you'd have to go and actually get Bartender and Dominoes because you weren't happy with how it fit on your normal UI. And then as expansions like Cataclysm came out, not so much Cataclysms, I'd say probably more like Mists, you felt like you were losing some spells, and they did remove some spells, but the abilities that they removed weren't really all that useful spells. They're things that you didn't really use that much, and of course people did cry about it, and they said you're making classes more simple and you're making the game less fun in one way or another. But I'd actually stick up for Blizzard when they did that, because a lot of the abilities they did remove were just shit spells that weren't really doing much, and you'd almost never use in almost every situation. They were very niche. You'd maybe use them while you're leveling once or something like that.
Because you mishit a bind.
Yeah, maybe. But when they did remove them, they sort of integrated some of them into glyphs, and they sort of merged some spells together, and they merged some talents together. But it did feel like they were simplifying the game. There was less choices when it came down to doing DPS rotations or even healing spells. Like, they pretty much removed everyone's efficient slow heal, like Nourish and Healing Wave. They weren't really used that much anyway, but, you know, they did remove them. So, and then now that Legion's come out, everyone that logged in after the pre-patch, all your buttons are fucking gone. There's nothing on you. I mean, what do I press? There's nothing here. You've got like one button that just says heal.
Don't die. That's it. Make it so tanks don't die.
There's a lot of buttons that have been lost. And initially I was like, what the fuck? But then I did remember while I was playing on beta, the artifact weapon does give your class, you know, it does give you, most classes at least, one extra button on top of what you have right now, but it also changes the class, the way that you play your class. It gives you procs, it gives you buff up times that you need to track. There's things like that, so it does change how your class plays. That doesn't apply to every single spec in the game, but that's something to think about. But have they gone too far? We should put that as a title, by the way.
Have they gone too far?
Have Blizzard gone too far?
Number 7 will shock you. It does feel, well, once again, because we're like kind of right in the middle of fucking like pre-patch, and it's like kind of still quite fresh. It's like, where's all my shit? It's like change is scary. Like pretty much everything else we've been speaking today, change is scary. And when it's completely directed at a character that you spent a shit ton of time on, and you know that character ain't gonna fucking change, that is pretty terrifying. You've spent a lot of time playing your character. You've kind of obviously liked how your rotation worked and all that kind of stuff. And the majority of people with their new rotations, at least the people I've spoken to, it's not normally a positive response. They've changed it, and it just feels weird and different, and you haven't got a lot of abilities, and it just feels like they've removed, like lessening the skill cap, you know? It's a lot lower.
There's less options.
There is a lot less options. I was going to talk about that in terms of DPS. Generally speaking, in situations, you've got to see that every GCD is kind of like a choice that you have to make. It's a choice.
Mini puzzle.
It's a mini puzzle, exactly. And the right ability is the like answer to that puzzle. So do you use Barrage here? No, actually Barrage isn't correct here because of something else. You want to pull up your focus and use it then, and you want to make it so you use this ability there. So having meaningful choices as part of a rotation is far more important, in my opinion, than the amount of buttons that you have. However, you have to have a certain amount of buttons in order to make meaningful choices, in my opinion.
And also, I think...
Or at least to make it more fun. You know, pushing buttons on a keyboard and just dancing about with your control and your shifts. And
having to, like, almost react to, like, procs and stuff like that is also...
Yeah, it is.
You know, it's also quite fun. But, I mean, I wouldn't say they've smashed every class.
No, not
I mean,
at all.
like, Shadow Priest, as an example... They've lost orbs. You're not tracking orbs. You've got
insanity.
You've got rid of plague. That's gone. But you got insanity to track.
And you got like avoid shit, and it's cool. I really like Shadow Priest.
And like you feel like you're doing no damage. I mean, I haven't played Shadow Priest that much. I'll be honest with you. I played it a bit on the alpha, and I've played it a bit on my alts on live, which they're terrible. My Shadow Priest alts. They have fuck all gear. But you feel like you're doing no damage, and then suddenly you go in your void form, and it's fun. It's like, holy shit, I want to stay in this as long as possible.
Especially you got Surrender to Madness up. It's like, I'm going to die if I don't stay in this form.
You know, you're trying to be like perfect in it. It's fun.
Yeah.
And I think Fire Mage is pretty fun as well now. I never really played it before the patch, but again, I played it on my alts as soon as the patch hit, and I enjoyed it. I like it. I like the new combustion and how the procs work with Pyroblast and everything like that.
Oh, it gets even cooler. It gets even cooler with the artifact ability.
It does,
yeah. Actually, really, that's a really good example of a class that does vary up quite a lot when you get your artifact. So
but I know there are other classes such as Boomkin. I don't like the new Boomkin.
I haven't heard a lot of people do.
We actually did the video on it. If you remember, I did the class preview on the Boomkin, and I said that I didn't think it was actually that bad. I actually kind of liked it. I've changed my mind. I actually prefer the old Boomkin in comparison to the new one. I don't really like the new one now.
Why? How so?
It feels like you're basically just spamming Wrath the entire time.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Because I never really played Druid before, so
it's like keep dots up, press Star Surge, press Wrath, Press Lunar Strike, then press Wrath.
Oh.
Press Wrath. Press Wrath.
Yeah,
Press Wrath.
A lot of people are also complaining about things like Rat Paladins and stuff like that. Apparently their damage is really bad. One thing I did want to say, by the way, talking about the whole idea of getting Artifact Weapon, there's a lot of people complaining generally about balance right now, like as if the game's supposed to be pre-patch balanced. It's not.
Oh yeah, obviously it's not.
It's really not.
Every single class right now is balanced for their artifact and for 110.
Yeah, and we're a level 100 and we ain't got shit. So don't be surprised that you see Warlocks doing 68 million DPS, even though that was a bug that we reported on beta a long time ago.
And it carried over.
And you see other classes doing absolutely no damage. That's just normal. If you wanted to give like good feedback, you'd go beta and go level 110. I know everyone can't, but that's like the best place to do it if you do have access and you want to give feedback. Go on the beta, get 110, and just say, look, this isn't working, this is working, blah, blah, blah. But generally speaking about ability pruning, it definitely does feel that they're stripping away some of the tools that you do have in order to react to certain things happening, so such as a giant wave of ads coming in. So it makes you feel a bit more useless sometimes because you're normally doing this and you're normally used to, I don't know, placing down a trap as a hunter and, oh no, I haven't got my traps anymore unless I'm survival, or you're used to doing something else as another class because I don't know any other classes. All I do is play hunter. You normally have those sort of choices and some of them have been taken away from you, so it does initially feel really bad. Whether or not it's going to be a big deal in a couple months' time, I really don't know. It's like, as hunters, it feels weird because you pretty much just have a 3-button rotation, give or take. You are kind of using barrage, so maybe a 4-button rotation. It feels...
As a healer, it feels weird right now.
It feels really odd, and I'm not sure if it's a particularly good thing. Some classes do feel a bit gutted, you know? They've taken away a big amount of them.
I think just to sort of end this conversation about the ability pruning is, ultimately, we can't really comment on it until we see exactly how the game is going to be and you have a maxed artifact. Once your artifact has every single trait in it, every single talent is maxed out, everything's completely as far as you can possibly be, then you can make a decision on if the class is actually shit or not.
Yeah, and if you've been in raids and stuff as well, or in whatever situation
shit in
you
the
call
sense
endgame.
that it's boring to play, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still concerning.
It is a little worrying, as is everything we talk about. Talking about the artifact weapon, one thing that is a little worrying that I wanted to talk about is the spec switching aspect of it.
Oh, God, yeah.
So when we first spoke about the artifact system, it always felt like a bit iffy. I wasn't always really that happy with it, that has changed with me now.
Yeah, there's a couple of aspects of it that are really cool. For me personally, I'm not too interested in the lore behind them, and I'm not really overly interested in all the quests and everything to actually go and get them. I preferred, like, when you log into Legion, it just sent to you in the mail. That would work perfectly for me.
But for everyone else, I'm sure they're really looking forward to that.
But I do like the way that, you know, it progresses with you throughout the entire expansion. It's essentially a replacement for the legendary quest, and I think that's perfectly fine. I kind of like the system. I like all the transmogs you can unlock on it.
That's good, yeah.
To show how prestigious you are of your class and whatnot, and getting all the achievements to unlock it. I think that's all really, really nice.
And the talents as well on them.
And the talents on it are cool, yeah, and they do change how your class works, as we just said with the whole ability pruning scenario. But I'd say the really massive issue with the whole artifact system is, of course, respecking. If you go from one artifact to another, the difference in the amount of artifact power the other ones have in comparison to your main one is going to be significantly lower unless you've been working on them just as hard. And I don't think that's necessarily a great system. As an example, if you're like playing Frostmage and Frostmage is king throughout the entire expansion, then why even bother? And you get to the last tier and suddenly Fire's the best and Frost is just now completely shit, well, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Because you haven't worked on your other artifacts, which means you kind of have to work across them in the entire expansion. And there are systems in place. There are catch-up systems where, you know, you send off the missions at your class hall, and when they come back, it gives you an item that gives you a permanent buff that increases the amount of artifact power that you get from items, and the percentages go up and up and up.
It gets crazy.
It gets really high. It goes up to like 500% or
maybe
5,000%. It just keeps fucking going. I don't think anyone actually knows how high it does go. But that in itself still isn't a solid catch-up system, because you're always going to be ahead on your primary one. And you're always going to want to keep getting more and more for your primary spec. If you ever put on your off-spec, it's going to be like, oh, yeah, that's a bit gross. I want to keep progressing my main one. I don't really want to touch the other one until it's too late, and then you're forced to. And I don't like that system. I think if you just had simply a way of taking all your artifact power out of your main weapon and putting it in your off-spec, then done job. You don't have to worry. You can just store all your artifact power as a currency, and you can spend it wherever you like on whatever weapon you like. And you shouldn't have a penalty for that. Like, I know if you want to respec the talents within your artifact, you lose a load of artifact power. You're punishing players for them trying new things, and I don't think you should ever do that. And it discourages you from going on your off spec because your artifact sucks. If you're playing fire and you've worked halfway through your artifact, why would you then go frost? Because your artifact fucking sucks and you can't be bothered to put in the work just for you to play around for it for an evening.
Yeah, especially for like pure DPS specs, I think that's where, like, of course, if you're playing a healer,
healers
unless you're playing a priest, although disc doesn't look too good right now, but it might become good. Who fucking knows? But like generally for healers, they're fine. Tanks, okay, but it's for the pure DPS classes like rogues and hunters and mages, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of scary because it feels, at least to me, it feels like I need to make a choice right at the beginning of the expansion which one I want to go for. And I need to like run with it. Even though that isn't particularly the case, because I said, as with the catch-up systems and the fact that you can go out and get as much artifact power as you like that's just endlessly farmable. Just go nuts and you can always get artifact power. It's not like there's a weekly amount like Valor or something. You'd have to make those sort of choices so you can always catch up in that way. But say that I am playing like Marksman or something and it's going well and it's going fine. What if they suddenly make a change to Marksman halfway through a tier, which they have done many times before? Remember in Highmaul, hunters were all over the place. Poor monks were getting destroyed. Like, imagine if that was on a rogue instead, because of course a DPS monk can't change to another DPS spec. They're just DPS monks. But with a rogue, say everyone was playing combat and then combat got annihilated. Well, you've spent all of that time and all of that effort into that particular weapon. It kind of feels like you're cheated out of it.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the one thing I'm really scared of, is that if players feel cheated out of, like, if when Blizzard make changes that kind of fuck you over.
One system I guess you could use to kind of fix that is that if they did ever do some significant class changes, that all your artifact power does get refunded to you and then you can choose where to put it.
Like in old vanilla when they used to make class changes, yeah.
So, you know, that is one option, I guess. But I still don't see why they can't just make it so you can take all your artifact power out and put it in something else. Like, why not? Why the fuck not?
It encourages people to do stuff.
Yeah, it makes people more creative with their class and their spec. They get to learn things from other specs that they have. They can find something that they like without having to put a significant amount of time in to work on an artifact just to work out, actually, I don't really like this spec.
Yeah.
I'm going to try this one instead. Oh, I actually don't like that one either. I'm going to try the last one. Oh, I like this one, but I've just wasted fucking weeks on working on the other artifacts.
Well, to me, it just makes sense. Like, I know this isn't how they're doing it at all, and it probably will. They won't do it like this, but I don't see why they don't just make it so your artifact power is bound to your character. So you have 4K artifact power. You can put all of the artifacts. Yeah, for all of the artifacts, it spreads. Cool. It goes across all of them. So whenever you do change spec, you have an artifact weapon like equal to it. I don't know if we're supposed to like make some sort of like deep relationship with our very specific artifact weapon. I couldn't give a toss in comparison to the gameplay. Yeah, it's cool. Oh yeah, I really like my new bow, or I really like my new fucking gun or whatever. But it's more important to me that the gameplay comes first over this sort of like weird sort of like I've got to put everything into one thing.
And I think the tree in itself is a little bit redundant because ultimately you're just trying to fill it up as much as you possibly can. And the early stages are just you trying to be as efficient as possible in your choices.
Oh yeah,
it's not like, that one sounds cool, I'm going to take that. It's not like that at all. You just take the one that's the best.
Yeah, you have to go.
It's like vanilla talents all over again.
It is
in a fucking weapon.
So like, even though the talents I would say maybe are a bit more exciting. Some of them are a bit dull, but I'd say some of them actually like change up how your class works fair amount. But there are right and wrong ways of going through an artifact weapon. Mm-hmm. Like, why bother? You might as well just be one long line. I don't know. Is it supposed to be for customize your gameplay how you like to play? And it's just like, well, no.
So you give them the flexibility within the one spec. Well, I want to work on the other specs and be a flexible player in general.
Yeah.
Oh no, you can't. You have to go fucking farm it.
So that's my one concern. As I said, I'm not sure if it will be a massive deal, but I can see if, especially with class changes coming in and annihilating specs. Say you were playing Demo Warlock this expansion, and you know when they fucked you over in Hellfire Citadel, even though it was like 25% damage reduction to everything, and people still played it because it was still really good in certain fights.
Yeah.
What if you had everything in demo up to that point? Say we had the artifact system now, and they didn't refund back your artifact power, then all of the artifact power that goes into the demonology artifact, you're just kind of fucked. Go get some more.
And just to put like a little bit of perspective in it, just to like make this point like even more clear than what it already is. Can you imagine doing the Warlords of Draenor fucking legendary ring quest chain and then that is bound to a spec. Let's say you're a healer.
Oh my god!
And then you had to get one for tank, but you had to redo the entire chain to get the tank ring. That'd basically be what the system is in fucking Legion with the artifact weapons.
Potentially. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh my god, like imagine you just got the legendary ring as like as a sub-rogue. Oh, combat's good for this fight. I'm going back to Heimwall, boys. See you in a couple fucking months. Oh
but
god.
It's that.
That, but nowhere near as bad. Just want to make it clear.
Well, maybe it is.
The thing is
maybe it is that bad though at the end of the expansion. When more talents come out each tier, like they said they will, each tier the artifact will become more and more powerful. There'll be more and more things to unlock. You can guess it's going to cost more and more as you get to that point. And the amount that you have to spend to unlock the later talents is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
It's in like the hundreds of thousands. So...
Well, that also is a point that you can... I think the idea is that you can always make a weapon good enough. Now, this isn't for Mythic. Like, because, of course, Mythic Raiders, you have to be very... A lot of the time, you need to be very min-maxy. But you can always make something that's good enough. So, because of the way that the early artifact weapon is, like, super cheap... Like, say, like, at the beginning, because talking about this whole scaling of getting more and more artifact power for items, normally at the beginning you'll get, like, 100 artifact power or something per one of the items.
Yeah.
In a couple weeks' time, that'll be more like 4,000, 5,000 artifact power per one of those items, which is, like, absolutely nuts. And that 4,000 or 5,000 artifact power should be enough to get you to your first primary, like, golden talent. So... You'll be able to make a weapon with relatively little effort if it's brand new, as long as you've been working on the character for a while. You'll be able to make a weapon that's maybe good enough for certain things. So it's good enough to do maybe early mythic bosses without having to do progress, or like it shouldn't affect you too badly if you're doing other things. But it's still like if you want to make your character as good as it possibly can, and then suddenly a spec changes or a fight really demands that you play a certain spec, then you're just fucked. That's the thing I'm scared about, is that you're fucked and you have to just farm your fucking head off in order to get anywhere near back to where you were. And yeah, no thank you. That sounds pretty scary.
But there are concerns, and we're not saying that, you know,
they're going to happen.
That they're all going to happen and that the expansion is screwed and everything like that. I mean, Legion is one of the first expansions that I've actually been really excited for.
Really?
Yeah, I dislike new expansions and change and having to level up. I find it all really stressful, but obviously I love new raids and everything like that. That's great. But Legion I'm actually really hyped for. I'm really excited for. So it's going to be interesting to see how these things pan out. Hopefully they do these minor changes that we suggested, or something similar that fixes the potential issues that we've just mentioned.
And the main thing that like I wanted to say is that with all of these systems that they're introducing, the game is just so big that even small mechanical changes and systems implemented can make these really big, like, issues. That's why we're kind of talking about them. Like, oh, you can endlessly farm Mythic Dungeons. Who gives a fuck? And then you kind of think, hold on, if you can do this, then that means people might not even want to raid. Does that mean that I'm going to spend all my time just doing this instead? Do I do any of the other cool content? You know, it kind of can make big effects. Even probably most of this shit won't. But I definitely think it's worth talking about.
And I think, you know, Blizzard have gone out on such a limb with this expansion. They're trying so many new things. And, you know, they've obviously put a lot of work in it, especially when it comes down to the artifact stuff. It will be interesting to see how it pans out. But I like that they're trying to go in different directions and try new things, because World of Warcraft has been the same for quite a long time. They followed the, you know, the same system. And they're mixing things up. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how it works. But thank you very much for watching anyway, guys. Next week, what are we talking about next week?
Fuck knows.
Fuck knows. So tune in next week.
It's going to be great.
We're going to be talking about fuck knows. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and we shall see you then.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.